different patterns.
It's almost like
how do they remember?
It's like someone wrote like 50 riffs, put it on a tape recorder, and was like, "Let's make
like,
a song out of this."
Spin the wheel.
And I guess that's what like old Metallica is like too, right? Those songs have so many fucking riffs in them.
But I mean, it's more. I mean, but it repeats at some point.
Yeah.
None of this is repeating. Like everything is different. Kind of feels like some surrealist David Lynch kind of stuff.
Or almost like Boonwell.
That's the guy. That's the eyeball one.
Yeah, slicing up eyeballs.
Did you say that?
No.
You didn't say the name then.
How can you listen to a song like that once and have any fucking clue what to think of it? Because it's just so insane.
Yeah, and there's so much going on. That, like,
there's so many
did that
riffs,
happen in that song?
And it's like so many tempo changes and like so many... And it's, as we said when we were listening to it, it's like you have to be so precise and so controlled and so good to play a song like that, but it sounds like total fucking chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So to it's like it's this really interesting dichotomy of like it sounds like you're listening to something that's just complete disorganized insanity because it's changing so often that you're like, what do I hold on to? Because there's so much.
And I've never seen them live, but I always wonder with this type of music, like, is it hard to confuse past songs with like new songs, or do you just have to do the one album that you recorded?
Like, which riff am I playing now?
Because there's so like each song is segmented into different parts. So like and as we've heard, there's tons. Like that song I think had like seven or six.
Well, who even knows? There was so many different and like you said while we were listening to it, like it doesn't, except there was one section in the middle where like there was a riff, something else, and it came back to that riff. But other than that, like hardly anything repeated.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I know this is like a weird reference, but it makes me think of The Who, and like the way that Pete Townsend would write songs as suites. Rather than like verse, chorus, verse, it would be like, here's the A part, here's the B part, here's the C part, here's the D part. And like there was no, let's go back to this part.
Yeah.
So we're done. We listened to the whole record. Pig Destroyer, Head Cage. Do you have
any last thoughts on the last song of the album?
I mean, it's just madness. Madness. I feel like this way generally about albums, which again shows the limitations of the reaction video format, is you really have to listen to it over and over again to know which songs are your favorite and how you really feel about it, and how like the song Army of Cops, which is definitely my least favorite as we first listened to it, and it doesn't even really sound like it belongs on this record. Who knows if like down the line I'll start liking that song because it fits with the album. Even if as a standalone single, you're like, this doesn't quite sound like what I want it to sound like. But I feel like that last song really just needs to be processed more. It's just like a barrage of riffs and stuff. So
yeah, or it's like the kind of like that 7-minute song on Phantom Limb. If you hear the CD version, it's not on the vinyl version. Yeah, but just that like kind of David Lynchian noise or like electronic and like sort of outside in the
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. That song is weird.
Like, and crickets going on, and it's not like that, but
it makes me think it's almost like surrealism. I know that's a weird thing to say, but it's like it's not a coherent narrative from the beginning of the song to the end of the song. It's all this different stuff coming at you.
Right. Who's the actor in because you said Madness, I was thinking of the end of Bridge on the River Kwai.
Oh yeah, David Niven. It's David Niven's in Guns of the Navarone. It's Alec Guinness.
In
Bridge on the River Kwai when he falls on the thing.
Madness and the helicopter shot of the bridge being blown up and all that. Are we out of the head cage, or are we still in it at the end of this?
The futility of everything. Who knows? I really like that album, honestly. And well, like I said, I'd only heard 2 songs, and one of them was Army of Cops, and that was the one I'd heard a couple times. And I don't love that song, so it's. I like this album a lot more than I expected to. If I were to say anything negative about it, is and we talked about this earlier, but and I don't hear this in older Pig Destroyer albums, but it sounds very Pro Tools-y to me. And what I mean by that is like with the drums, it sounds like the snare is like dropped in. And I don't know how they actually recorded this album, so I can't say that that's true. But it doesn't sound like they set up a mic and recorded the snare, and what you hear on the album is the organic snare drum sound. It sounds like they went into Pro Tools and were like, we like this kit, we'll drop it in on every hit. And with the guitars, and I know this is just for the sake of convenience, and I know that every band does this. Like you can see footage of Mastodon, Metallica in the studio doing this, but they plug the guitars right into the They're not like miking an amp.
Well,
you're plugging the guitar through the computer, and
then that's why they're sitting there.
And you're picking a sound,
right?
And you're applying it to that. But it sounds so digitized to me, and like I just love. I play guitar myself, and I'm not like a particularly good guitar player, but like to just sit in front of an amp, like especially a tube amp, and like crank up the distortion and fuck around with pedals, and like to have that response. Like there's so much response you get from playing a guitar through an amplifier and being in front of the amplifier and modifying your distance and being able to control with the relationship of the sound and the dynamic that you have. It's just so much more alive than just plugging and playing. And so if I were to say anything about this, like the performances are great, the songwriting is really strong and original to me. In certain songs especially, it sounds very much like a product of let's play this through a computer and drop these sounds in.
Right. And then also I saw a breakdown recently of Lamb of God's Redneck, and it was funny to see like the bass is very like the waveform is very quiet, and I'm like, oh well, that's why I can't hear the bass, because sometimes I can't hear the bass,
really trebly and like mixed guitar heavy.
But the bass is like, you know, the waveform is so tiny. But I mean, here I think you can hear everything. I just think of that because you talk of the
the mix. I mean, the mixing is really well done, and like it's a dynamic record. It's a very interesting. Obviously, when you have someone who does like. I mean, you know, their guitar player is a very accomplished musician. He's been in, I think he was in Agoraphobic Nosebleed. He's been like in other bands, and but when you have someone whose job it is to be in charge of electronics, typically people who do that are very good with like equipment and audio, and like they're obviously intelligent musicians in this band who understand like the palette of sound and where things should fit, and like I think the mixing is good. And I don't know anything about mastering. It's like one of these witchcraft processes that I don't understand at all, but it's just like the sound of the instruments themselves and then the fuzz bass was fucking great. Like there are moments from like that sounds perfect, or like there are bits with the guitar where like the dissonant chords in the beginning of that one song that was really interesting, where like some of the slinkier riffs where it sounds like classic Big Destroyer, but there are bits where it just feels like very digitized to me.
Mm-hmm. And then going back to that Lamb of God Redneck song, just because we're talking about Pro Tools and everything, I mean that was like 30 tracks, you know, of everything combined together. So I imagine this mix must be like 40, 50 tracks per.
Who even knows how much they record? I don't know,
because you can do like, they have like 90 track, you know.
Well, I mean, you know, they're like, if you go back to like, you know, Siamese Dream or like Melancholy, like there are Smashing Pumpkins songs that have like 50 guitar overdubs on them, and like, or like they'll just patch together the song from like bits of 50 different guitar parts. And like, it's just insanity.
Going back to talking about Metallica earlier, they said they couldn't really go back and do like a full redo of the bass or something, and they're talking about Lars Ulrich's drums, and they said like there's just so much tape on the master reel that if they went back to it and tried to like, you know, get a remastered thing, it start falling apart because there's so much tape on it.
Yeah, and everyone's like, I saw this really interesting, and this is way off the topic of Big Destroyer. I swear we'll wind this down soon, but I saw an interview with Jason Newsted about And Justice for All, and someone was like, are you hoping that there will be a remaster where justice is done to your bass playing or whatever, like a remix, I guess? And he was like,
that's what it was. Yeah.
He was like, you know, that album sounds the way we wanted it to sound. I'm like, I know that it upsets people that you can't hear the bass that well, but like we're not idiots, and like we're all professional musicians, and like the way that album came out was the way that the band wanted that album to sound. So it is what it is, you know. So anyway, Pig Destroyer, Head Cage. I would give it 2 thumbs up. Highly recommended. I really like that record. I'm probably gonna. This is Logan's copy, but I'm probably gonna go buy that for myself pretty soon. That was a great fucking record.
And I think they have a I forget what the limited to 500 version is, but Amoeba, I did see this album there, so they do have it. I think you might be able to pick up.
Yeah, I'm heading to Amoeba soon, so maybe I'll grab it.
The 500 album or version of it. So, anyways, madness. Head Cage, 2 thumbs up from me as well.
Thank you for watching.
See you next time.